Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as today we talk about Zootopia here on Anatomy of a Movie on Popcorn Talk Network. We have Demetri Panos.
Hey, movie fans.
That's right, Vice President to Exhibitor Relations.
Yes, on Movie Pass and
formerly of Technicolor and Lionsgate.
Technicolor, Universal, Lionsgate, General Cinemas,
everything.
WBCN Radio.
And we have Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everyone.
This movie in particular would take of great interest to her because she is a graphic design expert.
Yes.
And who better to have than her
Disney.
today? And she's a Disney expert.
I would say expert, but Disney super fan for sure.
That's right. And I'm Phil Svitek. I'm the COO of AfterBuzz TV and Popcorn Talk. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Zootopia. What a great, great movie. Right off the bat, let's talk overall impressions. I can't imagine you guys having anything bad to say about Zootopia.
Yes, I loved it. Fun characters. It was colorful. It was vibrant. It was, just visually intriguing. And I knew Ginnifer Goodwin was a voice of it because I personally am a big fan of Once Upon a Time. I also do the after show on AfterBuzz TV, our sister network. Check that out. And plus, I love Disney to boot. And then watching this, it was just a surprisingly solid movie and universal themes and a great solid storyline that I actually wasn't expecting. So it was just a fun movie to watch.
Dimitri?
Yeah. Well, before I get into that, I have to say, just a quick, I'm going to digress. I haven't been here for like 3 weeks. So lots going on, some good, some not so good, but I just wanted to thank Phil, Marisa, the Anatomy of a Movie team, holding a seat open for me. You know how much this show means to me. It's a privilege to sit in this chair, and I wanted to thank you very much. And thanks for the one person who may have said, "Hey, where'd that guy go?" I appreciate that too. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. Of course. And into Zootopia. Yeah, this animated movie, I put it right up there in the ranks of the really good Pixar movies as far as storytelling goes. I mean, I found this movie to be clever, very funny, topical, and it was poignant. And then you throw in a dash of like Chinatown-ish kind of mystery, and then you got a little bit of The Godfather and a ton of other pop culture references. It's really hard not to like this movie. And I went into it not knowing the full story. And this ultimately, it's a mystery with some great themes. Much like the best Pixar movies, always have amazing themes to them. They're flashy and look great for the kids and have great characters that kids can really enjoy. But they also appeal to the adults. There's something that touches either the heartstrings or makes you think. This movie had all of that, and it wasn't necessarily a Pixar movie, but we shouldn't be surprised because when Pixar made the full merge with Disney, they pretty much gave John Lasseter the keys to the house, and he said, "I'm going to bring back Disney animation," and I think. All the movies that he's done animated-wise, from Tangled to Princess and the Frog, and obviously Frozen. But I think Zootopia is just amazing. Great job, so fun, and it's just an excellent movie.
Yeah, I thought so too. Just overall really good. I liked how they were able to take all the animal traits and either play to them or against them. And that's what kind of kept the mystery of it all is, okay, is this person really who he says he is, or is he not?
Right.
Or he or she or whatever. So I thought that made it a lot of fun, and overall fantastic movie. And as we discuss this, there's a lot that we get through. You can download our entire rundown as well as all the photos that we talk about. Just go in the description. Doesn't matter where you watch or listen, whether on YouTube, iTunes, the website. The link is in all those platforms, so just click that download. It's a zip file, unzip it, and everything is there because, we might not necessarily hit everything, and you might want to know a little bit more in depth. It's a nice little companion piece, as I call it, to our discussion. So, let's start with the development. Dating back to 2013, over at a little thing called D23, it was announced. And by the way, just even for people, because it took me a while to understand, D23, obviously it's a convention, it's a Disney convention, but the D stands for Disney, but the 23, I don't think people quite know the history. So does anybody want to explain that?
Well, it's based on the exclusive Disney Club 23 with Disney.
Yeah, I mean, D23 has been a club for a little while, and even before the convention started, it was something that, as a Disney fan, you could have joined for a nominal fee, of course. And then the D23 conventions started. They started organizing those around the same time, and it's an every other year show that each year it just becomes bigger and bigger. Like this last year they had a D23, which you were a part of.
I went to the August 2015.
And it was insanity. It's held in Anaheim, and it's like Comic-Con proportion crowds.
Well,
that's for Disney.
Yeah,
but that's the
Disney.
interesting part too. Again, I don't want to digress away from Zootopia too much, but now with Disney owning a lot of the Marvel property, they pull away from Comic-Con to an extent and instead launch it at D23, and Star Wars is a Disney property as well. So now it's becoming huge.
It is huge. Yeah.
And D23 too. And not to digress too much from Zootopia, but it's all things Disney. So they will make their major movie announcements. They will make their major new attractions at the parks announcements, like what's going on, like Hatbox Ghost at the Haunted Mansion. Big stuff. So it's all things Disney. It's not necessarily just movies, just Marvel or Star Wars. It's their television shows. It's
games, interactives,
it's everything that's collectibles, like from pins to the Tsum-Tsums. It's insane what they do there.
It's amazing.
And what D23 and how it has grown. So when they make an announcement now about a Zootopia or about a new movie, it gets as much, if not more, press than what they could do at Comic-Con. Yeah. That's how big it's become.
Absolutely. Marisa, last year, because they did a follow-up, so in 2013 it was announced, in 2015, last year, there was a follow-up promotion. Were you able to see some of that stuff?
I did see that. We had the directors and the writers, and even Ginnifer Goodwin appeared on stage promoting it. And Ginnifer Goodwin is actually part of the D23 Club, because she herself is a humongous Disney fan, avid. And she was just saying how much she loved doing this character, and the fact that she was so excited just to voice a character for Disney was literally a dream come true for her. So it was really fun, and that was when I was actually first introduced to the Zootopia movie, and it really pumped me up personally to get excited for this movie.
And I have
you're flashing your D23.
My D23 card. So yeah, I mean it's become a very big thing with Disney, and you get this card and a nice kit, and they have these awesome announcements. So yeah, it's good stuff. And there I am. I'm an official D23 member.
One day I will be.
And it's a bummer that we don't have John Comerford here with us today, because he loves talking about the writing process, and ultimately, Pixar and now kind of the infusion of both of them, they do writing really well. Mm-hmm. They go through the true process of writing in terms of really developing stuff, and we'll talk about the various things that they went through and changed it, but that's what I love about them. They treat that entire process, and it is, it is a development team. Much like, there's in TV right now, it's done in such a right way because you have teams of writers. Right. When you have a great team like that, you can create a lot of good television, and it's sort of gone away by the wayside for movies, but Pixar and Disney have, now kind of kept that tradition of like really being a team. And in this case, spearheaded by John Lasseter, who respects that.
He does. He loved the classic Disney animation, everything since like Snow White and Bambi, going up to more modern trends like Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid was one that really sparked and gave a renaissance to Disney animation again. And then when Beauty and the Beast gets nominated for an Academy Award, again, mind you, not Best Animated Movie, because that category had not existed. It was Best Picture. People were taking Disney animation seriously again because they were making fantastic animated movies. Then towards the end, there were a couple of missteps here and there, and once Pixar came along, they sort of shifted back. They shifted to that digital animation. But once Lasseter was given keys to that kingdom, he said, you know what? I want to bring back animation, but I'm going to make it like Beauty and the Beast. I want to make it like Bambi and Snow White. I want people to be moved. I want it to look like the hand-drawn animation that I grew up watching as a kid. And the first movie out of the bat, I believe, was Princess and the Frog. Great movie. And then I think that was followed up by like Tangled. And again, they look different from Pixar, but yet they have a lot of characteristics of those classic Disney movies.
Yeah, and they had a lot of the same process of how they go about movies.
Yeah, and story. And this is a great thing with story because through the whole process, they even switch story. They change their pace, they change their footing. They change the track of this film. About a year out of its release, they said, we gotta switch this. It's not working with our main character, and we're gonna change that around. And
let's get there. Let's get there, right? Marisa, give us a little bit of the history because so much. The whole idea was Animal Kingdom and doing something different along that, and it just in that way it grew and grew. But Marisa, talk about the whole history of just research and kind of the development phase of all of it.
Yeah, so of course John Lasseter, the brilliant man that he is, he sent a team to go research to Kenya. And, they studied animal traits and their characteristics and their behaviors of the wild predators out there. And then they also went to the Natural History Museum where they studied even more animals. And it got to the point where they just, up to the minute detail of the microscopic formation of fur for animals. Right. And they had over, 64 individual mammal hairs, which is you would never think that, but that's how detailed they go into. And we see a lot of animals in this film, but something when I was watching, I didn't really realize it because it was just a slew of an animal kingdom, but there's actually no apes or monkeys or reptiles and birds.
So I'll just
those are very common animals too.
Well, in terms of the apes, they didn't want to make it too close to human beings. Then it would have been the ape should be the most intelligent.
Right.
That side of it. Now, in terms of the birds and the reptiles, I didn't find a specific reason why that was chosen to be omitted.
I don't know either. So
I guess maybe. I can't imagine Kenya not having birds and reptiles.
Yeah.
So,
but if you think about it, a lot of animal movies that we see that's animated and stuff, you always see birds and stuff. So I think it's just that's a common bird kingdom that we as humans always see. So it's kind of nice to see other animals that aren't always portrayed.
Right.
So
and we are mammals, so maybe there's a prejudice there.
We are.
And it goes along with the theme of that.
But I find it interesting. It just shows they really wanted to focus on a certain group of animals and their characteristic traits.
Yeah.
Which I find very neat.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the strongest things of the entire movie, as I mentioned in my overall thoughts of taking those characteristics of those animals, and utilizing it within a story structure. Right. Sometimes they played to the cliches of movies we've seen before. Other times they used it against it, but it's so because they're animals, it's fun. And that was I mean, we'll talk about this more in the marketing, but all I knew of the movie was that snippet at the DMV.
Right.
And that was just such a funny bit that, I mean, you could see that as a skit on SNL.
To me, it reminded me of the Marx Brothers. I mean, that is such, it's such like shtick. It was really funny. The other thing though too is I think with Disney making, there has been a lot of animal movies, whether it's the Penguins of Madagascar and such. But let's think about it. Disney really started this back with things like Bambi, Dumbo, giving life to these animals.
Mickey Mouse, you can say.
Mickey Mouse.
The OG.
And, some of the throwbacks, Robin Hood, they've always had, quote-unquote, animal movies, walking on two legs and such. They may not have had pants, with the exception of Goofy. He's always had pants and walked on two legs. But this brings the animal movie in a more, let's say, contemporary kind of world. It creates its own world, but it makes it very approachable. The animals have cell phones, so that, there's lots. It's identifiable is the word, better than approachable. And that's what Disney has always done. They've always made your characters identifiable, whether it's an animal, whether it's a mermaid, whether it's the Lion King. I mean, that's an animal movie. They always make the characters identifiable to the young adults, to the little wee kids, to the adults.
Well, you had mentioned it, so let's get into it. The shift, right? Originally, it was supposed to be focused on Nick's character, and then they made the switch, right? And I'll let you guys kind of talk about it a little bit at depth, but I thought as a starting point, when they did do it, we open up the movie very nicely with that whole kind of backstory of here's the world. And I don't know how you would have presented it through Nick. I don't know how they, were initially choosing to do it. But that was perfect. You have this innocence. You have kids putting on a play. So, an ideal view of the world. And then you kind of get into it. And you know what you're in for. Yeah.
Can I ask, was I the only one, I immediately thought of, this, because this is the setup. And I thought this is what Inside Out did so brilliantly. It took about 5 minutes to set up the world that the audience is going to see so they understand it. Zootopia does the same thing, basically. It takes 5 minutes. It's very comedic. It's very funny. And by the end of it, you're like, okay, I understand it. I get it now. I know what's going on. I understand the predator-prey thing. Again, that's where the cleverness goes in. Did anybody else... have that quick throwback to,
I mean, you could say Up, you could say all these movies, I think, again, that first couple of minutes, they just do a really nice job of setting you up. I mean, the fact that so many people cried during Up in the
first 5 minutes? Yeah.
That's unheard of.
And speaking of animation, too, I forgot Wreck-It Ralph, who the guys who did Wreck-It Ralph did Zootopia. That was another one of those animated movies. Again, very smartly done. But yes, you're right. And I think... having that preamble, or starting it off that way, setting up the world of Zootopia, you're in, you get it. Done.
And I think, for me, again, I'll let you guys give the actual quotes that everyone said, but for me, if it started off with Nick, not that it would have been like this, but it would have felt like Wolf of Wall Street in the sense that you have a narrator that you can't trust, right? Because in Wolf of Wall Street, he's like, the car was red. No, actually, it was white. I'm just messing with you. And that's what I think Nick could have done, and it would have worked. It wouldn't have worked in the same way.
Well, you're right, because he was the starting character. And when we're introduced to it as it is, and Hop is the character, we see the genesis of this world, and we see it through her optimistic eyes, so to speak. They said with Nick, it did start off actually quite differently. And through his eyes, the city of Zootopia was already broken. So it was so smart of them to realize, well, if we're starting off this way, how are we going to gain audience? How are we going to get that identifiable thing where if the city's already broken, where's the optimism? It's going to be hard to put that optimism back in there, even through Hop.
Yeah, and I think that just adds, like, how do you get the audience to like the main protagonist?
Right.
And if you're starting off with someone who's jaded and sarcastic like Nick, then no one's really going to like the main character, especially for this. You got to remember, this is a kids movie. It's animated. So, like, if kids don't like the main character, then we have a serious problem.
Yeah, agreed. And it also helps when you have a character who's a little bit naive. Nick is savvy to the world. Okay? He's wise to the world already. When you go in through a character who has these high hopes that doesn't want to be put down, and she comes in with the wide eyes and bushy tail, so to speak.
The optimism.
The optimism, there's a learning process that things aren't exactly as they seem. And you can do that through the naivete of the Hop character, in a sense, where with Nick, he already knows the harshness that Zootopia can actually be.
Yeah, and as a mystique to him, she goes on that whole adventure of figuring out, is he good, is he bad? And so that question remains throughout the entire movie up until the ending of it when they finally become friends. And even, again, they have a humor to it when she first comes in. How many times have we seen, it's a trope now, you arrive in the big city, here's your crappy apartment, and yet she's like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Secret, yeah, right.
And I loved that particular moment because it's such a dark and gray apartment. Us as the humans would be like, no, that's a terrible place. And then she says the complete opposite. So I love how this movie just throws you off in those different ways.
Right.
Absolutely. And we've mentioned it. We've been talking about Inside Out. So making a major shift is not the first time they've ever done it. They inserted sadness into Inside and Out. Part of this is a DreamWorks movie, but Shrek, they redid about $4 million worth of animation for when Mike Myers switched accents because the Scottish accent ended up being better. So you could, I get it. Things have to change for this, but it all serves the purpose of the story. And go ahead.
Well, no, you're right, but it's happened since the days of Toy Story. Mm-hmm. Like Toy Story, they did a major shift and change as well as far as the character of Woody. It's one of the things with animation that you can do that, unlike live action movie, it's hard if you're halfway through filming to go, you know what, this isn't working. We have to switch. You can't. You have to like plow forward.
Yeah, but some people do it. They're like, we gotta fix this now.
Yeah. Well, World War Z is a great example of that and how that worked. But there are so many times where people will see it and they won't take the effort to fix it because it's costs, it's money, it's overages. On an animated movie, if you're working out the script and you're going over it with a good team of writers and a good team, period, in animation, you do have a little bit of that wiggle room to say, no, we got to go back. We have to go back and change who we're going to focus our character on. That's why it can take up to 4 to 5 years to get a movie onto the big silver screen. Yeah. It's one of the pros of doing good, solid animation. They can fix problems.
It was a change for the better, and I definitely think it enhanced the story that they already had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the guys who wrote it, Jared Bush and Phil Johnston, interesting credits for Jared, Dumb and Dumber, who wants to marry my dad, and then in terms of Phil, The Brothers Grimsby, which comes out this weekend. Mm-hmm. So Wreck-It Ralph, Cedar Rapids, which I think is a slightly underrated movie, but I think it's just so funny. It's got that very dry humor,
right?
And I think he might have, this is just a guess, but in terms of the dry humor that's inserted in this movie, I think he's wildly responsible based on the credit of Cedar Rapids.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the two of them teamed up, and we're writing this thing.
Yeah, and the director Byron, he actually had the idea from a long time ago that he just wanted to make a movie about a bunny and a fox. And that was the concept. It was like, and go from there.
Go from there.
And and it just years have passed, and they really just built upon that because the director Byron loved Robin Hood, the animated film so much that he wanted to have a movie kind of in that vein.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of funny because this movie also harkened to me another Disney classic, The Fox and the Hound, Predator Prey.
I love that movie.
Again, I couldn't help but think of The Fox and the Hound and how Predator and Prey became friends, and this movie, when you have can't do Fox and the Hound. Wait, with Fox and Bunny. That's great. But I think the chemistry too between our actors, our voice talent in this movie was, you couldn't have picked better people too. And the dry sense of humor, right up Jason Bateman's alley.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Right. So.
You know what it is? Because obviously you could look at The Lion King and that had a predator prey type of mentality, but it was, it was a utopia in that respect. And it was only the whatever the evil characters.
Scar.
But I was trying to figure out like an adjective without it being a curse word. Unfortunately, I do not have one at this moment in time. There you go, antagonist. Prick works equally. That were any real threat to the prey.
Right.
And so I liked how they took sort of that concept and now just escalated it to all of it. And I do like that play. Zootopia, obviously a pun on utopia, but with animals. And so that was for me always ever present of. Because especially in science fiction, right? For me, I've seen so much science fiction, and I know, Demetri, you're in this camp.
Sure.
That the word utopia gets thrown around so many times, and you're like, at what point, like, utopia is just not possible.
Yeah.
Like, let's just stop trying to achieve utopia.
Yeah.
And I like that it didn't try to push that too heavily with this.
Right.
It's a nice society, people get along, but that's where. The Fox, the way they kind of portrayed him was like, okay, like people get along, but it's not as nice as you think.
Well, let's bring up the mystery aspect of this movie. In any good noir mystery, the undercurrent of evil or not so nice is in your city. Okay, whether it's night in the city, whether it's the Big Sleep or the Maltese Falcon, Double Indemnity, you're in a city and there's a Chinatown. And it's all about this undercurrent of things that are not so nice within what's otherwise a bustling city. So that's what, again, the mystery aspect of this movie, which took me completely off guard. I didn't know
it's
this
a very
was going
smart
to be.
movie.
I didn't know it was going to be a mystery. Last time Disney had a mystery could have been The Great Mouse Detective, as far as I know. But this was a really smart, fun mystery to do. It could have been the Johnny Depp. Rango.
Rango.
Yeah, Rango was a very Chinatownish kind of mystery, but it's hard to do what this movie accomplishes because it's not straight mystery. It's a kids movie. It has comedy. It has a point. It's poignant. What it balances, most live action movies have a hard time.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a buddy movie, but most buddy movies are either, female. So like Sisters is a buddy movie, but it's girl and girl, or then you have Due Date, right? So that's guys and guys, but you never really see a guy and a girl because then it's usually just a romance. And so they've got that playing with it.
And it's almost like a buddy cop movie, right? I mean, and she's a cop. They play like private eyes in a sense, and it plays like a buddy movie, a buddy cop movie in very many ways as well, and yet at the same time it makes you think about what's going on. It turns certain tropes on its heels, and it becomes a it becomes a movie about racial profiling, and it's like, who the hell goes into an animated movie thinking, oh, wow, this is about racial profiling and what this means to society and how it can adversely affect the way I look at somebody? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I like that. That goes with, the universal themes that I was surprised that this movie would have. And I think that also just makes it relatable because everyone can understand it. That you said racial profiling and discrimination and jumping to conclusions about a certain person or character or animal in this film. And I liked how they played on that, because we still, as an audience, we understand where it's going from. It's
Right.
like we can't just judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And that theme still carries throughout, which
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
Yeah, same here.
I did too, and I thought, I want to ask you guys, because the biggest twist of it all was the assistant to the mayor, the sheep,
A sheep.
and her, being this evil person at the end of all of it.
Scheming.
Because maybe I've seen so many of these, I kind of knew where it was going. And what definitely solidified it for me was the part where her and the buffalo were recruiting. I'm going to call her Carrot, just because I think it was a funny nickname.
Carrot.
Judy Hopps.
Hopps.
Yes, indeed. So when they were trying to recruit Carrot to be like the face of this new campaign, I was
Right.
like, oh, okay, she's pushing for that.
Right.
That like was the last check mark I needed to solidify that was the sheep. But what did you guys did you guys know of the twist? Did you guys because it's almost two separate movies. The first part is the mystery, and then the second part is now dealing with this aftermath.
I enjoyed the twist. Thinking back in retrospect, I kind of knew it was going to be the sheep, because once there was like certain facets that put them all together, you can figure it out. I realized when they were saying that all the predators were being removed from position, I thought the mayor himself, who's like one of the biggest predators in the
Right.
kingdom, he's a lion. I was like, he has to be removed. There's a reason why he's being removed. So who's going to take his place? Of course, it's going to be the sheep.
Right.
So that thought crossed my mind. But I thought that was an interesting twist that they added to it, because who would think the whole movie they're building up that the predators are the bad ones, when it was actually a prey.
The
who
meek,
was
the prey.
Yeah, that turned out to be the bad one.
Yeah, it was, again, I feel like piecing together, following like the Norm mystery. What was great about it is that it set up red herrings all over the place, right?
Almost
So-
literally, I'm sure there's a pun in there on the sign somewhere.
Probably.
And so it did a great job of doing that. But once we got to that scene where she is now the sheep in wolf's clothing, so to speak, is the mayor, and says, we want to make you the face. That's when I was like, okay, they've been doing such a great job. And I'm not saying that it detracted. I'm just saying, of course, this makes sense. They took from their best mysteries and what they're doing. So it wasn't like it was a surprise, but I liked how it all resolved regardless.
Yeah, and what's nice is, I think, I think a lot of the older audiences, if they think about it for an ounce, they can see it coming, and it's okay. I think there's enough kids who won't see that plot twist, like, oh, it's the sheep.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun regardless. It didn't bother me knowing, because at that point they still had enough humor, like the whole Walt and Jesse Breaking Bad insertion. Like there's enough going on there where the story and the humor kept it from being like, okay, can we just move to the part where she's the bad guy?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, they kept the mystery sustained. Like they didn't blow it. They didn't they just kept that mystery as part of that was our main story in a sense. And then on top of that, you have Hopps, who wants to be, the first bunny ever to be a cop, and what that entails. You had the fox, Jason Bateman. There's so much going on that this mystery, we are staying along with this story because we actually care about our main characters and how they're going to come out at the end of this movie, how they're going to come out at the end of this mystery. Like, it wasn't a big surprise to me. Zach, you might have to close your ears or shut off your... another big spoiler, but, once they set up this whole thing that the predators were going back to their naturalistic instinct of being predators, I was like, at some point, Nick Wilde is going to go back to his predatory instincts and attack Hopps. I mean, they're going to pit they're going to make them friend and foe, and they're going to pit one against the other. How's this going to work? But I just liked how it all played out. And you're right, for a kid, who's maybe this was their first animated movie, which is great because maybe they'll have a sense growing up of watching great mysteries and watching really great movies. For a kid, they're gonna go, "Oh my God, there's major jeopardy here," and unless of course you were some of the kids that were in my theater, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But
goodness.
In any case, but yeah, no, I think it was the way this was crafted as a mystery and as a message movie and as a kids movie. Just it's unparalleled. Most movies don't strive.
Yeah,
for that.
Marisa, what was in terms of convention or story element? What did you like
I
most?
really enjoyed just how much they played the predator-prey storyline. I find that very fascinating because they're, doing the research. There's the ratio from 90% prey and only 10% predators. And in the film, we see a lot of predators and how they pit those two. Like you were saying, Demetri, you kind of knew when we find out the predators are going to revert back to their animalistic behaviors. Like, we knew that there was going to be a moment between Judy and Nick that Nick might be attacking Judy and go because he reverts back. Because only to parallel the foreshadowing when we saw Judy as a kid and she was being bullied by who other than a fox. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of knew that was going to come full circle. I enjoyed that. Just the aspect of just a predatory... I found that fascinating.
Yeah, they use so many great devices through all of this. There was a point I was thinking... I like the fact that towards the end, after the press conference, Nick notices the fox repellent, or whatever it was. He's like, don't think I haven't noticed that.
Right.
And you're reminded as an honesty member, oh yeah, until she gets rid of that and tosses it, she still has... an inkling of whatever you could call it, prejudice, you can call it, preconceived notion.
Fear, right.
Yeah. Still to her. And so we're not there yet. And it became a nice device physically to show her mental state.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the casting and kind of the story through their perspective. Ginnifer Goodwin, obviously from Once Upon a Time. Mm-hmm. Making Marisa very happy, but she was also in Killing Kennedy. I thought that was a great TV movie. Big Love, very huge, successful show on HBO, and Robot Chicken.
Yeah, she's done a lot of voice acting too, and also Once Upon a Time, also part of the ABC Disney family, so it makes sense. It's all relative. And her character Snow White / Mary Margaret on that show is very optimistic, very positive, and to now know that Ginny was going to voice Judy Hopps was like that. It totally makes sense because she's that type of person in real life. Because I've seen Ginnifer Goodwin several times in several different appearances. She really is this person. She embodies Judy Hopps just in bunny form and in human form. I love Ginny. I talk about her like I know her, but I'm obviously a big fan, and like she lived up to my expectations of what this character was and could be and is.
Did you know she failed clown school?
No, I didn't know that, but I thought that was fantastic.
I don't know how or why, but that is a fact.
You're just not funny. I don't know. Like, what do you say?
I guess not.
Your nose isn't red enough?
I don't know.
You don't fill those big shoes? I don't know. But her lending that voice to this character, Judy Hopps, too, again, the character lives through not only the animation, it has to be a perfect collaboration of animation and voice talent so that it's hard to distinguish. And her character was so optimistic, and what's great about it, especially in today's day and age, it was a female character who would not be put down, whether it be by her parents, whether it be by peers, anybody around her. And when you think about classic Disney, the princess movies, they all follow that a similar theme where Belle's a smart girl. She's she reads a lot. She's smart. She's independent. Hopps was in the same way. She wanted to go off on her own thing. She wanted to be the first. A lot of it remind me of Kristen McCullough from the Tragic Challenger, but she was the first woman astronaut to go up in space. Like, this is what Judy Hopps meant. It's a female character And in today's Hollywood history, not enough strong female characters. I don't care if you're animated. I don't care if it's live action. If it's written really well, and it happens to be a female character. Judy Hopps is a very strong female character to inspire young girls and anybody alike. She did a great job.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And, she was described by Moore having brought a very centered sweetness, tremendous heart, and a great sense of humor. So I thought, I don't think not enough can be said of her.
No.
In this regard.
What I found funny is that because I was watching a lot of behind the scenes and them actually recording, and there's a lot of clips via YouTube and whatnot. Ginnifer Goodwin recording her lines, and she was just constantly laughing. Very, very positive person. And you can tell she was actually having fun, and she loved doing what she was doing. And then there was also the scenes where she had to voice act with Jason Bateman. She'd be laughing so hard she would ruin Jason Bateman's takes. So, and she did feel bad at the end of that, but you can tell she obviously loved this character.
Yeah.
And she had both her parents, which is a rarity.
Yeah, I love that. I noticed that while watching. I was like, oh, she has both of her parents and a whole family to boot. So
yeah. Well, of like 127 siblings.
Yeah, it's like, but I love the fact that she had both parents giving her like two different perspectives of what the world she's going into. That is Zootopia.
Right.
By the way, I did like just the size of her family. What's funny for the adults, it plays to that joke of blank like rabbits.
I think one of the best lines is like, and Benny's like, we're good at multiplying.
We're good at multiplying.
I laughed so hard at that joke, and I think I was the only one laughing.
The Catholic
We're actually
way.
good at multiplying.
Indeed. So let's talk about Jason Bateman. Obviously, without him, as good as Ginnifer Goodwin is, if he didn't match to her, this movie wouldn't have worked to me. Mm-hmm. And I really like Jason Bateman. I think his brand of comedy, his style of comedy, is just fantastic, and I think he's really hitting strides right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. With Bad Words, which I love,
which he directed.
Yeah.
He was in that movie The Gift. Not a comedy, but he's really good. It showed his acting chops. But again, when you talk about a movie with messages, that movie is about the after effects of bullying. Okay, mm-hmm. So now he's in Zootopia, which he took because of his kids. He said, I should be in one for my kids. But he himself says, I'm a very sort of positive, optimistic person, but I cover with a lot of snark. But it's that snark that I find endearing, that I relate to. I love snark. And whether it's horrible bosses or whether it's Bad Words, he is able to pull off snark and still be likable. And he pulls it off in this. Like, again, I can't see anybody else who could have voiced this. To offset Hopps' optimism, his snarkiness was comedic, yet it was charming at the same time. You have to have something, because if it goes overboard, then you're wondering, why does Hopps even hang around this guy? But he does it in such a way, and I loved when he called her Carrot and stuff. That was great.
Well, because he had that whole great backstory. It was great. They had a tit for tat of, okay, optimism versus reality or realism, whatever you want to call it, of like, hey, are you not this, and that? Okay, therefore you're a carrot.
Yeah.
Carrot.
So, and even she found it in that moment hard to argue with him, because she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
he wasn't calling her cute. That's another thing that I love about Hopps. Oh, you're so cute. Don't call me cute. So, he comes up with Carrot, which is sort of cute for a rabbit, but
could have been baby carrot.
It could have been baby carrot. Yeah.
Indeed.
I think. Oh, sorry. I think it's actually cool that I think you found the research, Phil, that Kath Soucie was voiced the younger version of Nick Wilde, and if you guys don't know Kath Soucie, she's big in the voice acting world, and she mostly known for the voice of Phil and Lil in Rugrats, which is my ultimate animated cartoon show ever.
And I think this brings Jason Bateman into the Disney family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe, as far as animated stuff. So now he is now part of, you know, the Disney lore. So if you see Hop and Nick at a park, you know, they're now part. You know, Jason Bateman's part of the Disney family as he goes off to film Bad Words 2. No,
I don't remember. Is this his first? Is this his first animated thing? Because one of the quotes I have from him is, quote, "I foolishly said, 'What kind of voice do you guys want me to do?' And they just looked at me like I was an idiot. Just do what you do. Just talk."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Jason Bateman. That's what works about the character. That's what's always worked about Jason Bateman. Just do you.
Yeah.
Don't pretend to be anything else.
I think that just, like you were saying, what works for him is just, I think they were searching for a specific dry humor, and that's what he embodies. So I was like, we don't need you to act in that way or change a different persona that what we already know and love you for and why we hired you.
Right.
So I think it's great.
And he has that dry delivery, which is great for a fox. And again, it doesn't go overboard. You know, you don't want to hate the character of the fox.
No.
You ultimately have to empathize with him, and he has to be relatable. And if you make it too snarky, too sarcastic, you just don't. And again, it goes back to what I said. How does Hop stick around with him? He's just a jerk.
And I liked how they made him a witness in the part of the case.
Yes.
That was really the only reason why she had to keep going back to him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I was curious initially of like, how are they going to pull this off? And then, okay, first witness. That was fantastic. And what I liked about they developed their intricacies really well, whereas the other characters, I love the cliches, and then within that one scene, you had the whole turn of, okay, there's something different, right? So I love the whole cliche of the rat being the godfather, and okay, we're going through this, but the last seconds, okay, you saved my daughter, great,
Right.
wedding time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys get to live.
Yep.
So I thought they chose their moments really well. Of okay, should we extend this out or is it in the moment type thing? Let's start Chief Bongo. I thought he had a decent arc in this entire thing.
Yes.
I liked
Chief
him a lot.
Pogo. It was funny because he's such a physically intimidating character and like he has a deep voice, of course. And but I liked how there was moments of levity with his character where he was watching the animated app video thing, which made him like vulnerable in a way and still funny, even though he gives off this strong, authoritative persona.
Oh, he's strong like bull.
For
And he had a
sure.
bull,
Yeah,
and he had
absolutely.
he had the bullish, he didn't want to give in to this new bunny recruit. He didn't care if it was a first. You're traffic, you're ticketing, and I thought again, he voiced Bogo so well, that, and again, they gave him an arc. Like
They did because he could have been one note the entire time, and he could have changed at the end. And that would have been fine. But even as Clawhauser comes to him, he's like, "You're playing the game. No, I'm solving the mystery. Get out of here. What are you doing?"
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I like that humor in there. And this is one of two of his animated movies for the year. The next one being Finding Dory, which just a small movie.
A small
Just a
movie
small.
Coming up.
Such a small movie that we're not excited for.
Well, it's going to be, for me, it's going to be very interesting because Finding Dory is obviously a sequel to Finding Nemo.
So excited.
Zootopia, I think, was so good that I was already thinking, I think that Finding Dory has a lot to live up to.
I think it does.
I-
Especially because it is a sequel too.
It's a sequel.
So it's got that expectation in itself.
So
a
could
sequel
it be
that's-
Toy Story 2? Could it be Toy Story 2 or could it be Cars 2?
No. Let's not even throw Cars 2 in there.
All I say is that with Zootopia out, Zootopia really set a very high bar, I think. And that Finding Dory, and I agree, I have hope, But they have I'm sure they spent a lot of time story-wise, but it's going to be interesting going in. And could you imagine that Disney would have released 2 amazing animated films?
It's very possible.
I'm so
Absolutely.
excited.
Same here.
Speaking of Clawhauser, I like Nate Torrance in general.
Fantastic.
He was in Hello Ladies, an HBO show that isn't as well known, but I enjoyed it heavily. He was in Get Smart and She's Out of My League.
Yeah.
He's just a fun guy, and they actually captured him pretty well in terms of look.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I think he even just had a guest spot stint in Supernatural as well.
A
This
very
guy,
dark show.
Yeah, I mean, but he played, he played a very Chuberic, happy-go-lucky character in that show. Yeah, he's great. He's hard not to like when he's on screen. I always remember him from She's Out of My League. Yeah, he's awesome, and he's funny. And you when he smiles and laughs, you just automatically do it with him. Yeah, he's great. Love this guy.
I really enjoyed Clawhauser just because he was such a you already forget the fact that he's a cheetah, and a cheetah is a predator that you should be afraid of, but he's so lovable and such a fun personality that he was just so fun to watch every time you saw him.
And he's the heaviest cheetah.
Well, that's the whole
Who
thing. They
loves
switched
donuts?
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheetahs for 0 to 60
Are
like
lithe,
that.
right.
He's 0 to 60 in 4 hours.
Yeah. 0 to
Maybe.
60 donuts in a minute, though.
And I think Nate Torrance is just hysterical every time I see him. For the most
great.
thing I remember him the most is actually Get Smart.
Get Smart's a good one.
And I think I got the biggest laughs out of his character in the Get Smart movie, so he's really fun to watch.
And the picture that we have up right now, that's just the way he appears to be all the time.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, he's very
He's a happy guy.
very infectious, though. And I
Absolutely.
think even through animation, it was even hard to hide that because that character becomes very infectious as well.
They gave him great action, even the, here's my donut. I lost it.
And then he eats it.
Oh, right.
And he comes from a background in improv, so it's always tough to tell with these types of movies of, okay, what's improv, what's not, because there's no clear-cut answer. But I'm sure that could have been easily him of like, what if I lose the donut?
Right.
I thought that was absolutely amazing. Let's talk about Mr. and Mrs. Hopps.
Sure.
Bunny Hopps and Stu Hopps. By the way, they're writing partners in real life, so Bonnie Hunt and Dawn Lake. I just felt, now knowing that, I felt their chemistry always worked, but now I understand why it worked.
Yeah.
Because they're such close friends in real life.
I love Bonnie Hunt. I've watched her ever since I was a kid, and she's just fantastic. And again, being a big Disney fan, I just noticed she's been in so many Disney movies and voices, and even real life Disney. And I was like, to know the fact that she was also in this, because I heard her. And when you watch animated movies, you always try to pick out who's who.
Right,
But
right.
I instantly knew that was Bonnie.
Yeah, and she lends great voice to characters. It's hard. Again, I'm a big fan of Cars, and that character that she's just
Sally.
It's just she's great at lending a voice, making it a little bit different. She caters it to around the character. Now I gotta say, Dawn Lake. I was watching the movie, and again, I was probably the only one. I was going, wow, that sounds an awful lot like Tim Conway. I was like, this is Tim Conway. I go, he has the same cadence, the same talk. And I was like, who the hell's Dawn Lake? And it was after that I found out, I said, oh, the writing partners. Okay. It works. Yeah, they were really great parents together, too. So.
I just like the characters of the parents, because Judy, who is so independent and fearless in a way, coming from parents who were so afraid of the world that they were content living in their little bunny hollow place, I thought it was really funny and a great contrast to what Hopps was.
Yeah.
I agree. And then we had, of course, our weasel, played by Alan Tudyk. Tudyk. And interesting enough, this is a fun fact. You want to share it, Marissa? You're more of a Frozen fan than I am.
Yes. So Alan Tudyk, he voiced Duke of Weselton in Frozen, who was always, his character, people were always mispronouncing his town that he came from, and they pronounced it Weaselton. And now in this movie, he voices an actual weasel named Duke Weaselton. So, again, Disney joke going from one movie to the next.
Yeah, well, look, for me, Alan Tudyk will always and forever be Wash from Firefly and Serenity. Also Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. I mean, this guy, he's great at comedy. He was in Dodgeball. He's
the pirate.
He's the pirate.
Steve the pirate.
Steve the pirate.
Yeah, he's great at comedy. What having him on this type of a film, why he's such an asset is because he loves fans. He does this for the passion of, he likes to work, but man, he loves to go out and meet and mingle with the fans. In fact, during a press junket that I believe for this movie that may have been taking place, I think it was in either Miami. I think it was in Miami. He was at the Long Beach Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he didn't want to back out of whatever commitment he had there. But Tudyk, to me, is he's great. You can put him in anything. And he is the kind of guy, though, that you can't quite peg who he is via voice. Like, you said you can pull up Bonnie Hunt. Mm-hmm. Him, if I didn't know it was Alan Tudyk, I wouldn't have guessed. I wouldn't have figured out that was him. He's great. Love Alan Tudyk.
Especially because he's playing a weasel.
A weasel.
Yeah, weasel.
He's supposed to be Weasley.
But then we go to our next actor who you can pick out his voice.
Oh, you definitely can.
I mean, J.K. Simmons, often the voice of authority. And, plays Mayor Lionheart, the Lion. I love these names.
Yeah, they're definitely spot on. And, on the nose. I enjoy J.K. And, again, another authoritative figure, which was also fun to listen to. It's like, I'm just a big fan of J.K., so he's great in everything he does.
And he can obviously, we know he can be snarky. I mean, I just recently watched Burn After Reading, and he was in that movie as well as one of he was like the head of the FBI guy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, he's great. Like, he can be in comedy, he can play in a drama really well, like Juno. He can be likable. You can hate his guts, like in Whiplash, or he can peddle insurance. Right? And again, and he doesn't give it up. I mean, I just say, this guy won an Academy Award, and he's still in Farmers Insurance commercials. Hey, he has a family he's got to take care of. I'm sure it's a good paycheck, and why not? I could film 12 commercials in a day, be done with it. So you got to appreciate the guy's work ethic.
Absolutely. And then, of course, I love that we had Shakira as the Gazelle. Her name is Gazelle, and she is a gazelle.
And she's a
gazelle.
I think they utilized her really well, and what I liked about her use the most was that at the end,
right,
it was a clever way to show the credits and make people stay. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was really good. Because so often people leave, and you could show like bloopers, or sometimes people show pictures. Or if you're Marvel, of course, you have the little snippets. But this was a fun way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Shakira and her music as well, because I was at the D23 Expo.
Your hips don't lie, Marissa.
Hips don't lie. But at the D23 Expo, they actually had Shakira. They rolled in a video. And she teased part of the actual song that plays during the credits. So that's the first time I heard the song. So I knew it was going to play a big part, and her character was going to play a big part in this film. And sure enough, she did. So I think it was a real fun, and also just a mix of different cultures too. Yeah. Because the song sounds so different from like the theme that was Zootopia, but still within the family realm.
And it was good because it could have been kind of like a throwaway. It could have been just the song that they had and like this character. But they also the mere fact that they inserted her into the portion with the news reports and said, pop icon Gazelle is speaking out against this prejudice against prey. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, she was like the Bono.
We got the celebrity status.
But you were so on point with this because they used a pop group to come out and say, hey, this is wrong, and they stood up for something. They, you could tell that this Gazelle group had a pulse in the social consciousness of Zootopia, let's say, and I thought that was very clever. I mean, because whether it be Bob Dylan or whether it be The Who or like I said, U2. Who gets very much into the socio-politics. It was sort of I was like, wow, okay, they didn't just use her for the song. They wrote the character out to be a little bit more as part of the story. And I thought, that was great. That's fantastic.
And it was simple. It was small, but simple.
Exactly.
Indeed. And then, of course, let's talk about the villain of them all. Assistant Mayor Bellwether, played by Jenny Slate.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. I noticed her because I was a big fan of Parks and Rec. So she has a very distinct voice that when you hear her, you know instantly it's Jenny. I thought because it's such a quirky, fun voice, it kind of goes with the sheep.
Right.
It definitely it really complements the character, and it does throw you off because it's such a bubbly voice that you wouldn't think that this bubbly, energetic, enthusiastic voice is the villain.
Right.
Well, too, at the console when they're going through the security footage, she's helping them, and she gets excited. Ooh, this is the most exciting thing I get to do all day.
Yeah.
And it works on the level. It throws you off because she's helping them, but at the same time, she's also kind of venting her frustrations of like, my life sucks, and please help me.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, behind every big executive is usually the good, the good assistants, behind them who has to keep their schedule on pace, but they can usually be mistreated, and she wasn't treated the best, and she instantly sets up that bond with Hopps, and you're going, oh, all right, Hopps has an ally, and this is before we know that we're getting into a mystery. Like, we're meeting all of our characters, and and again, it just goes back to smart mystery writing, where we could set up, we already know this character, and then, we're in a mystery, I gotta go back, this character might be, but you don't necessarily think of, Bellwether right on the offset. You don't. Right on the onset.
Well, let me ask you this, part of it became, I would love to rewatch it and think about it from this perspective. Was Mayor Lionheart really that evil to her? Only because he might have been early on, maybe, but in the movie, it was at a point, he said, cancel the rest of my appointments for the day, so on and so forth. I thought it came from a fact of he was just really nervous and was trying to keep all of these disappearances so under wraps that he had no time for anything, and that's what made him very rude.
Yeah.
Because she was not, in his mind, she's not supposed to know. She cannot be involved with this because if anybody finds out, then he's ruined.
Right.
See, I saw it from the perspective that she was just frustrated, and the reason why she was scheming is because she was just that assistant who people take advantage of. They're all their duties on her, and she's the one that just has to do everything, and she's just frustrated in that way. So, like, I get it. She's just sick of people always having her do everything and not being appreciated. So for that perspective, I understood why she would turn against the mayor.
And her character design is very nice little piece of Disney trivia regarding her character. Animators took inspiration from classic Disney films for the design of Assistant Mayor Bellwether. After seeing Bellwether, you were reminded of the Lambs in Make Mine Music or Melody Time. And classic Disney, and that's where they got the concept design for Bellwether, which is, again, Disney going, farming out Disney, going back to Disney roots to make this movie. And again, great character, and I like the turn from her being so meek and pray, and then she was evil.
She was.
Evil.
Yeah.
Evil little sheep. Do you think she counts herself?
Yeah.
That's what Nick said. I think one of the best moments was when Nick was petting the fur, her head.
Right.
And I was just laughing at that because, it's even just a physically playful character. Again, you wouldn't think she was the villain.
Right.
Let's move into the Easter eggs of all of this. There's so many, so whatever ones we actually have, only a small portion of it. Where do we want to start? There's you found this, Demetri. There's Trader Joe's Urban Snoutfitters Snorts Illustrated. So someone had a lot of fun coming up with these. Like whoever's job this was, so much fun.
Had so much fun. And then of course Frozen, who was
This is not some princess musical where so if I was
break out in song.
Life isn't a cartoon musical where your dreams come true, so let it go.
And I'm like going, well, alrighty then. That to me, they're not. I've never seen them be like so blatant, like where they say, "Yeah, this isn't Frozen." Like you want a princess, and they sort of kind of when they are sort of kind of making fun of Frozen.
Oh, there's a lot of Frozen references
Yeah.
throughout this whole film. And in Elsa, we had Dougal Weaselton and actual Weaselton.
Well, Lionheart himself was inspired by Mufasa. If you look at him,
I've always liked Mufasa better than Simba. Sorry, people.
Well, Mufasa is pretty awesome too. There was that shot where Weaselton was selling the DVDs, and I love that because there were names of the DVDs that he had released, and then like upcoming movies that we know as Disney fans that are Finding Dory and Moana that are coming out. Who there was like what was it Meowna, and then just the past DVDs that were released too. I thought that was a fun play on words for them.
Well, we had let's go back to Bellwether, who had 6 unique outfits, all of them wool. By the ways, okay. The mayor's wardrobe included a stellar houndstooth dress, a blazer with a bell in honor of her moniker, and an orange dress featuring scissor pattern that represents shears. I think that's hysterical. I mean, so that's the thing too. When we research this stuff, they have so much fun. Those animators putting this stuff. They know that there are fans who are going to find these little gems, these Easter eggs. The one thing I didn't find was hidden Mickeys. I was looking for hidden Mickeys because
apparently there is one. They said.
Yeah, that's the one thing one thing that I couldn't find.
Well, there wasn't a hidden Mickey. You talk Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, it's
In the
usually
opening-
mouse ears.
In the opening animation, they used Mickey as part of their Disney animation.
Well, we have, I also found something like the top 10 pop culture references found in Zootopia as well. Obviously, the bootleg DVDs. I like Wreck-It Rhino. Judy's iPod had the Fur Fighters, Fleetwood Yak, the Beagles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
And her service provider was PB&J.
Indeed. And then, did we talk about Kristen Bell earlier? I
Not
felt like
yet.
We haven't- not yet.
I felt like in my mind I thought we did, but go ahead, Marisa. You're a huge Kristen Bell fan,
I
dating
am,
back to
'cause
Veronica Mars.
Veronica Mars, as Demetri, we did the
did.
Veronica Mars dissection, so go check that out. But
I was there too. Jesus.
yes, you were.
People forget.
My
That
friend
was
Zach.
such a long time ago. Yeah, that was a fun dissection.
That
but
was.
Kristen Bell, who obviously was in Frozen and whatnot, but she herself is actually a big fan of sloths. So it's like she had an appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and where her husband Dax Shepard surprised her for her birthday with a sloth, and she was just overwhelmed to the point where she was bawling. And it just makes sense that she voiced Priscilla, who is the DMV sloth, and she's a sloth. So I thought that was a fun tie-in for her character.
Indeed.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that sloth scene. That's another thing that really gets me about this movie, is that
The DMV.
okay, so it's the DMV. We've all had our experiences at the DMV. If you say what experience, then you don't have a license yet, and you're lying to us and yourself, because we've all had experiences at the DMV. To make them sloths, obviously you
It
get
makes
the
sense
irony there.
why they take so long.
But that one scene, again, is a scene that it sort of kind of plays back to that old vaudeville. It reminded me of something that could have come. You said SNL. I was thinking a little bit farther back, like the Marx Brothers kind of thing, where that was vaudeville shtick, and it just plays great. And it's like, who thinks to do? You could be afraid you're running too long. You can overplay the joke, and then it becomes too repetitive and boring. No, it was perfect. Perfect.
And the fun thing about the DMV is that at D23, they actually showed us the exclusive clip of the whole DMV scene. So that, so I saw that a long time ago, and then they released it in trailers months later, where people were seeing it for the first time. I mean, I already saw it personally, and just watching that scene, that teaser scene at D23, it made me so excited for this film based on that one scene.
Well,
as funny as it was.
It also works because they always use something in one way, shape, or form that comes back. So the fact that Flash does end up being fast in the car, and because it could have been like, okay, here's your next assignment, boom,
Right.
off we go, cut. That's the end of the movie. Then that's like your
We're into
cliffhanger.
sequelville.
Yeah, but the fact that it's Flash.
What?
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
It works. It works amazing that way.
We didn't. Well, you touched upon the Breaking Bad little
yeah.
reference too.
Yes, that was
hysterical.
Walt and Jesse, of course. All right, let's move into, because we've got so much to talk about with this animation, and although we have a decent amount of time still left, time's going to be eaten up with this, so I want to get to some of this stuff. First and foremost, any drawings. Before any drawings could begin, the animators had to meet with the directors and the writers to learn about their plans for the characters, and it makes sense. You kind of has to be approved. You don't want to spend so much time doing something only to find out, oops,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not good enough.
Right.
But dear Lord, all this research that has gone into this, by the way, is probably like 7 pages of this. And most of it's you guys. So I'm going to let you guys kind of start to take it away.
Well, of course, every film has to have concept development and whatnot. And what I found interesting was the concept art that the director, Byron Howard, actually, whipped up himself. And so if you're watching the video, you can definitely check out some of these photos.
Great picture that's up right now.
Or download the
download
the
the
pictures if you're listening.
links.
You're not excluded either.
No, absolutely not. But it just, he really wanted to show a New York type of city bustling atmosphere, and you can definitely tell and also just via the photos that they're very vibrant and busy, and that goes into the main center of Zootopia.
Right. And also production designer Matthias Lechner, who grew up in Germany. You saw he used his experience to create like the trains that were going around Zootopia. He also said he wanted the city to be a character very much the way Woody Allen uses New York City. And again, I wouldn't compare this to a Woody Allen movie, but I love the inspiration because New York plays such a part in, especially Manhattan, things like that. That Zootopia,
Annie Hall.
Annie Hall, Zootopia, instead of it being called Manhattan, we got Zootopia, and it's as much a character in this movie. And when you think about it too, some of your best noir movies, the city is as much a character as your live action people as well too.
What I loved about this entire process, scale had so much to do with it. And, yes, there's the scale of the characters, Ratverse, so forth, and you go up in sizes and whatnot, but to scale the city to accommodate them.
Right.
And that's what I love. So you didn't just have one large city, because as human beings, we're all the same size, so we can all be, yes, there's 7-foot people versus 4-foot whatever.
Right.
There's that difference, but overall, we're not talking giraffes versus mice.
Right.
And so to have that characteristic just within your city and how that creates zones
Right.
and differentiations, I thought worked really, really
awesome.
well.
Yeah, I thought Rodentia was brilliant. That would make sense how mice would live together and not be trampled on by the big animals.
And hence another Easter egg, or our Godzilla or King Kong Easter egg, is Hop is going through Rodentia as the big quote unquote monster. The scale was amazing, and the amount of detail that they put into each location of Zootopia. It just makes the movie so much fun. It makes the movie so much fun. It's like George Lucas's theory at the original Star Wars. I didn't want people to be bored, so I tried to put something in every frame of film that would keep audiences' attention, and you get all that in Zootopia. You could marvel at the architecture, the drawing of everything that goes around, because there's a texture to it that there's nothing boring to see. It's something
Not one
to marvel,
bit,
right?
yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, and what I find interesting that the writers take note of, that we as the audience when we're watching might overlook, is that they said at the city hall outside there's a watering hole, and that's pretty much where it just all comes together in the origins, where they realize that predator and prey can live together. That's a common thing between them, and then they built the environments going out from there.
But it's also what I like. It takes that real life human connection to it, right? How many fountains are there outside of buildings and this and that, but then twisting it and giving it that meaning. I really enjoy that. And it's, in terms of the species, we had 64 totally unique species in this entire movie, which only spans probably 0.0000001% of all species in the entire actual world. Although most are endangered, unfortunately.
Oh, and then of course, when you talk about little Rodentia, the sign, "You must be this tall to enter." Of course, that's a riff on you must be this tall to get on this ride.
Yeah.
It's a great park Easter egg. I also love too when you're talking about Disney introduced their trusty team of engineers. They introduced a new fur controlling tool called iGroom.
Yeah.
to make the fur for these animals. The software helped shape about 2.5 million hairs on the leading bunny, and about the same on the fox. A giraffe in the movie walks around with 9 million hairs, while a gerbil has about 480,000. Even the rodent in the movie beats Elsa's 400,000 strands in Frozen.
Wow. And her hair was fantastic, on point.
It was fleek.
It was fleek. Sure.
Or is it on fleek?
It was on fleek.
There you go.
There you go. I thought that was interesting, because it just shows just how much software and the animation has evolved since,
Right.
years and years. And then even from Frozen, that didn't come out that long ago.
No.
And just they expanded it to animals, and just how detailed they were with the fur. You never think it.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because before the tool, this iGroom, before they developed iGroom, they talk about how animators had to work with approximation. When creating the silhouettes or posing their creatures, they had to predict the way the characters would change with the addition of fur. And we'd have to wait hours and hours for render, and this thing really helped. That works for one character, but not for Zootopia. Animators are obsessed with posing and silhouettes, so if the render changes shape, any discrepancy can ruin the performances. So, I mean, it really, again...
Detailed.
And while you're watching this movie, you don't think anything of it.
No.
You don't think of the hard work that really poured into this. And again... we always talk about the filmmaking process as being collaborative. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're live action or animation or a Pixar movie. It all goes from writing to the actors, the voice acting, to the production design, how you're creating this technology to make Zootopia come to life. it really is an amazing collaborative effort.
But to me, animation is it's just so interesting because it is the most collaborative. Like, it would be so rare if, like, us three could go out and make, in theory, a great live action movie, right? Just the three of us, right? We shot it, we edited it, we starred in it, we wrote it, all that. But for us three to make an animated movie, in theory, it could be possible, but it would take forever.
Yeah, and I think animation, because they're always raising the bar, it's like, in a sense, it's like video gaming, okay? It's, do you want to play today's Star Wars Battlefront? Like, look how far we've come from Pong. And as great as Toy Story is, okay, and what makes Toy Story relevant today is because it has a great story, right? But if you're a crappy movie and your animation is not on par with today, then you really stand out as a crappy movie. Like a Norm of the North, say. Like, when you're not, like, you understand what I'm saying?
I
Like,
get what you're saying.
you have to keep up, and you got to keep on breaking the bar. But at the same time, if you're going to do that level, they at least take the care to raise the bar in the storytelling level as well. We got to use animation as our tool to create characters. We get that, but we're going to start off with story.
Yeah, and one of the things that I couldn't find, but I know with Toy Story 3, it took like 7 hours for one frame to render out. I remember watching like behind the scenes footage of the first Shrek, and how sometimes like things rendered out with them without their pants or this and that.
Right.
Like, it was just so, and you're like, well, how could that happen?
Yeah.
But it did, and so I wasn't able to find those kind of funny moments of rendering.
Yeah, and again, it was something they were using something else. Keep performances intact. Engineers turned to something called Nitro, which is a real-time display software that's been in development since 2012 with Wreck-It Ralph, of all things. And then the animators are able to see realistic renders almost instantly that they can make decisions on the fly about their voice talent, what's going to go on. And the tool sped up the process, making it possible to keep subtle expressions on the furry faces in the movie. So there's so much that goes into that. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and they also used the program Hyperion, which
Right.
they also used in Big Hero 6. And that helps with the actual rendering of the natural lighting, and it
Right.
helps bounce the light in the natural environment in certain angles and whatnot. So that helps with the rendering. Because that was such a new process for Big Hero 6, and it was such an effective program for them that they also used that for this film as well.
Yeah, and lighting's such a, you can have really good animation and whatnot, but lighting is what sells it.
Yeah. And then,
Lighting gives it that physicality.
absolutely. Well, it gives you your shadow, your depth, and so lighting becomes, it's where a cinematographer can come into place, and how to, that's why animated movies have cinematographers, and they can hire people like a Roger Deakins to come in and not, he did How to Train Your Dragon, but when you hire experienced people who know how light can reflect or shadow something, it just, especially in a noir movie too, when the evil comes up, look how our little sheep changed at the end of the movie. She wasn't so meek anymore.
And
So,
I think it's also the blocking, because
Yeah,
she was
absolutely.
literally above them while they were below, stuck.
Right.
So.
and they also, each environment was meticulously crafted on something called bonsai. And this is a tree and plant generation tool that was first used in Frozen 2013, so that was 3 years ago. And once the software learned how to make a tree, it regenerated many different variations. And again, it's like a bonsai, how you're supposed to make it, various generations of a bonsai. But they create a rainforest, intricately layered foliage. What I found funny is that every single tree in the movie, no matter how different its shape or form, 30,000 leaves. Every tree in the movie has 30,000 leaves.
No more, no less.
No more, no less. How many leaves you got in that tree? 25,000. I want 5,000 more leaves on that tree. You're fired.
It's interesting to me. I imagine a world where 3D printing is going to fuse with this, and we'll just make trees. finally. And that'll potentially save the world, hopefully.
And I think the printing will take the same amount of time as rendering.
Well, here's the thing. A tree to grow takes many years. If it takes 3 weeks to grow a tree, I think we've made some improvements.
To take
There we
root.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, it's taken a lot of years to make a Demetri, let me tell you. And I'm still growing.
Man. What else in terms of... I think we covered a lot of the animation stuff. Any other little tidbits? I know, again, we have so many things, but without reading every single bit.
I think it's just an amazing just to them, just to wrap that up, is that, like, for as many animals and characters that they had, they were all very visibly different, and they were all memorable. Because you put a bunch of the same animals together, you're going to forget who they are.
Right.
But I think it's a testament to the writing and the visual production design and whatnot that, like, each of them stood out.
They did. I
Absolutely.
think about, like, Lion King didn't have that many. Like, it had, in the Circle of Life scene, yeah, it had a bunch, but it didn't, in terms
The
of...
Stampede, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
In terms of the characters that you mostly see, it's the lions, the hyenas, and then some the Hakuna Matata people. Those guys.
Yeah.
So,
Timon and
Timon and
Pumbaa.
Pumbaa, Timon and Pumbaa.
you know, I don't think they didn't have a number close to 64.
Warthogs. Isn't that what they were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no,
Pumbaa was a warthog.
and again, the characters in this weren't just throwaways. Whether it be Chief Bogo, whether it be Gazelle, like they added something to the story, had some semblance of an arc. You know, you could have just hired Shakira to do your closing song. That's it. They all go to a Gazelle concert, and you would have been, that's what lazy writing would have done.
Yeah.
But here they made Gazelle an actual character, and as you pointed out earlier, it's not in the movie for all of what? Including the song, it might have been 8 minutes, 10 minutes tops.
Not even.
Right. And yet had actual vested interest in the story and the plot, which I find great. Can we talk? I mean, where are we going?
We're going into music.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
you love music.
I really, really do.
You love this guy.
And I do love this guy. Michael Giacchino, who's if he's not part of the Disney family as a composer, this guy has done some of the best Disney compositions, whether it be The Incredibles, whether it be Up, and he's done Star Trek, both those movies, and he did Tomorrowland, he did Jurassic World last year. I mean, this guy, I've always said, he's definitely one of my favorites. I believe that he has the potential to be the heir apparent of a John Williams who, just stands on his own podium, John Williams. But Michael Giacchino.
By the way, I thought it was really cool that Ennio Morricone, he was giving his speech. He was like, he basically just made a John Williams speech,
Yeah.
a tribute to him.
Let's not go back to he did that, and I'll talk about maybe in another show what a sham that Academy Award was. But that's another topic for another time.
Let's stick to the positives.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't Giacchino win the Academy for Up for that musical score? I'm pretty sure.
Well, he won multiple Grammys, an Emmy, a Golden Globe, and an Academy.
Yeah.
An
So.
Academy Award.
Yeah, he's got the chops, let's say. And what is number one, we'll talk about how good comedy films, if you listen to the score, the music is not trying to be funny. And this is a quote from Michael Giacchino, and he's right. When the music doesn't have to try to be funny, your movie should be funny. I always harken back to things like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, in which the score, like, not only does it complement the action that's going on, but the movie itself doesn't try to be funny. You let your characters be funny.
Well, we talked about this with Christopher, and when we talked about Horrible Bosses
Right,
too.
Christopher, right.
He said, like, hey, the music I choose, I'm picking it because it's cool to those guys.
Cool, right.
That's how they think of themselves. And we just find it funny because they're not that.
Right. And even when, we had the wonderful, again, another favorite, John Ottman in here, and he talked Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. and how that movie was a noir, but it had comedic elements. But he wasn't playing it to be funny. He was playing it as a noir, jazzy type of thing. And what Giacchino can put into a score, he used a lot of jazz notes in this. He used a lot of African type of inspiration. I was listening to the score on my way up here. A lot of percussion. And not just drums, but I'm talking like different kinds of bells and perhaps xylophones. And he uses an entire orchestra, and he writes suites, much like John Williams. I mean, when you think about Star Wars, you've got, of course, your score, but then you get the Cantina Band. Mm-hmm. Then you look at a score from John Williams in 1941, where he uses that time period so well, and he can write swing music and then write score for the action taking place on the screen. Giacchino is the same exact way. And yeah, right here, he uses unconventional gadgets like Indonesian instruments, Middle Eastern bells, and numerous gifts from percussionists Emil Richards, who worked in the original Planet of the Apes. The latter included a steel mixing bowl and a ram's horn. All of these incorporated into the score. So we were talking about earlier on about how Zootopia is a sort of like a pun on Utopia. And anybody who's a fan of Michael Giacchino and gets his soundtracks, well, I just had it here. I don't know where it went. But just get a load of some of the titles for the Zootopia soundtrack. Let's see. Walk and Stock, A Bunny Can Go Savage, Stage Fright, Hopps Goes After the Weasel, Case of the Manchas, Work Slowly and Carry a Big Shtick. That's the scene in the DMV. I mean, this is the kind of brilliance that Giacchino can put into his soundtracks that, I mean, and this is why I feel that eventually he may even get to do a Star Wars movie. He's
there's
done
enough of them being made that
he might.
And listen, if you listen to the score, and I've said this before too, you listen to his score in Super 8, I mean, you cannot think that that's not. He's channeling John Williams. And what he did with Jurassic World, channeling John Williams in that score. And then I think, is I know a lot of people didn't like Tomorrowland as much as I did. I think it's still an underappreciated movie, but his score on it is tops. And he can do so many different genres. I love hearing him in the Disney animated world and that he's part of the family. Yeah. Big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So very, very good score. And again, there's so much more info we also have here that if you guys want, check it out there. So let's talk about the marketing of last year at D23 in August. Marisa, you were there.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Give us a full breakdown. This is
bit.
where they gave us so much news and promotion in preparation for it.
Yeah, for at the D23 convention, they showed the DMV scene, and then they also showed some other exclusive clips, such as the introduction of Nick and his character, and they showed that whole ice cream parlor scene where he cons the guy into getting, and the whole process of making the lollipops. They showed a lot, and also the introduction of pretty much like Hopps in her first day at work,
right,
and being a cop, and that she is the meter maid, and they showed her being, going from car to car to car, like they're very determined. So they really established what characters we can look forward to, and who the fox were, who the bunny was, and then they showed a lot, and they also showed concept art, because like you said earlier that they first promoted it in 2013, that convention of D23, but then 2 years later they actually had physical tangible evidence and
evidence that they were making the movie,
footage that they can actually show the audience to get on board with this film.
Indeed. One of the interesting things I found about the marketing of it, which I am not a furry fan, but there is furry fandom, and so as part of a marketing strategy, they hired Alloyd Integrated Media to reach out to members of this and create a meetup, encouraging them to post photos of themselves in their fursuits on social media with the movie hashtag. Now, how successful that was, I don't know. But nonetheless, it happened, and I thought it was interesting. And there apparently is a junior novelization of Zootopia
Yeah.
that is out there. I have not read it.
And also, in addition to that, there was also for more the marketing, merchandising, really, that because these are animal characters and kids can love these animals that pop vinyl. They're really good with the Funko vinyls. There's a lot of characters with Mr. Big, and so they made characters for collectibles in that way too.
Yeah, and I thought in terms of also strategy, both trailers really hit with Inside Out and then The Good Dinosaur. So, they knew, okay, fans of that will most likely like this. And, we've gone to that journey where we trust these people and you're going to watch it because if you want good animation, you're just going to keep coming back.
And, I think, and again, whether it was strategic in its marketing or it's even more to the point, its release date. I mean, because right around the corner, we're getting another animal movie called Pets.
Yeah.
And this one, has a lot of people excited because it's supposed to show the world of pets.
The Secret Life of Pets?
The Secret Life of Pets, yeah.
Okay.
Where the
Jenny
owners,
Slate is in that one, too.
Yeah. And she gets a lot of work. Yeah. God bless her. Good for her. That's what I say. And it's going to be interesting because after you have a movie like Zootopia, Secret Life of Pets is supposed to tell us this is what your pets do when you step outside the door.
Toy Story for
Yeah,
pets.
it's pretty much Toy Story, but for
so it's to come out before Pets. Knowing a little bit of the studio system. I mean, you don't want to plant two similar kind of movies. One's called Zootopia, the other one's Secret Life of Pets. They're all animal movies within an animal world, so to speak. It's going to be interesting when the Secret Life of Pets comes out. I know it was trailered on Zootopia when I saw it. I don't know if it was on yours, but I would have to assume. So it's very interesting. And then I guess that could sort of lead into like marketing and what that brought in for box office. But,
indeed, this movie did well.
It did. It was huge.
It was projected between 60 and 70. It surpassed that. Well, it surpassed that still even opening weekend where it made 75.
75.
Yeah.
And then
and it also beat Frozen's record when that first opened because Frozen was about 67.
Yeah.
And that this movie opened up more than that. So.
Yeah, and currently, I mean, we're about a week out, and it's already at 92.6 million so far, and we're in a very interesting time because it's March. That's a lot of high schools are starting spring break. We got Easter. The other amazing thing about this movie is, as of right now, it is the best reviewed movie of the year at a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. And an A on CinemaScore. I mean, this is it's a potpourri of, like,
good movie.
We're going to get more and more. We're like, for the people who didn't go last week, they've already heard about it. And if they go onto a Metacritic or a Rotten Tomatoes, they're going to say, I should go see Zootopia. And even when you're looking at a 75 million gross, I mean, we have some relatively big movies coming out this weekend. But even at a 50% drop,
it'll do fine.
It'll more than likely be number one again, and your other new movies are going to.
It's got 2 weeks to really, because then Batman v Superman hits.
Yes, but again, I still like with a lot of the kids who are going to be out during their spring breaks and whatever, it's going to have a sustainability. And even though Batman and Superman may be number one, let's just say the legs. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll have rabbit legs. And just run.
Or turtle legs. Well, I don't know which analogy is worse or better.
Or sloth legs, for that matter.
Yeah, because you want to keep going. But
There we go.
Anyway. So 100%. The CinemaScore comes in at A. I agree with it. Peter Travers of Rolling Stones wrote, maybe the most subversive movie of 2016, praising its timely message about the harm of prejudice in the face of prevailing xenophobic political rhetoric at the time of the film's release and the film's humor.
Okay, and now take what you just read, right? To us, that means something. You show that to a 7-year-old, what?
Xenophobic political rhetoric.
Exactly. And that's what makes Zootopia special. That's what makes it such a good movie. That a 7-year-old is not going to understand that review, nor care. They're just going to have fun going to see
I'm sure
the movie.
every 7-year-old is reading Rolling Stone.
Well, you never know.
But, yeah, and that's the beauty. You know, we talked about Minions and the ultimate downfall of Minions. Yeah, it was fun, and I'm sure, you know, kids liked it, but adults...
The joke got old in Minions.
Yeah.
You know, it got old.
Banana.
And it got old fast. So...
How do we make a minion more funny? We blow him up. Pretty
right.
much.
Or throw in a fart joke.
There you
Every
go.
once in a while.
Banana. Anyway. Yeah, so it just worked really, really well.
You think there'll be a sequel?
I think so.
I would love a sequel.
I think here's the thing. There's a lot to play with, and what I respect about them is they're not trying to make a trilogy. They've completed their mission here.
Right.
Now let's just make a second good movie. You know, each movie, the aim is just make a good movie.
Let's make a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not late. Let's split this up into. Let's split Zootopia up into 4 movies, even though it should be a trilogy. I love the new trilogy, which is now a quadrilogy.
Right.
Jesus, people. Jesus. I hate that.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. But, you know, it'd be interesting because I think a sequel to this movie would have a lot to live up to. And again, my only ding in the Pixar universe, unfortunately, and it was directed by John Lasseter, was Cars 2. It's like, I get what he wanted to do, but now that stigma is always there. Like, you don't want your sequel to be like Cars 2. And, you know, for Zootopia, they hit such a high benchmark in creativity and storytelling for an animated movie. And thematically, like, how could you have thought 5 years ago that this was going... I mean, talk about lightning in a bottle. Like, it is so topical today, and it's going to continue to be a topic. But here's the crazy part.
Here's where the BS of it all is. It's always going to be topical. You know what I mean? You could have made that movie 10 years ago, and everyone was like, oh my God, how'd they predict it? It's all the same. Like, that's what history is. It's that we're so idiotic and so stupid.
Yeah.
That the crap we talk about today and have issues with, it's been around.
Yeah.
Wake up, people!
No, point taken. You know, that's a solid point. I mean, you're absolutely correct.
There you go. So, that's my rant of the day.
There you go. My Ennio Morricone shouldn't have won that Oscar in any case.
Fair enough. I understand why, but we won't get into it. Marisa, anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
No, I loved this film.
Give us one more tidbit.
Oh,
give us one.
Tidbit.
Give us one, because I know you have it in your back
think,
pocket. You have something in your back pocket.
No, I think they actually covered it.
I don't believe it.
Pressure, man.
All right. Well, if you think of one, jump at it.
Okay.
But thank you guys for joining us today. We've got so many other movies coming up, so please continue to follow and check in with us. If you're a first-time viewer and or listener, thank you guys so much. Hopefully, check back. See some of the other stuff that you like. You don't have to watch everything, understandably, but just the ones that you've seen and are interested in. Check it out.
But you have to watch it at a theater. Oh, can we talk about this? I have to bring this up. I'm sorry.
Our viewing experience?
Our viewing experience of this. I saw this on a Sunday evening. It was early evening. Let's call it a 6 o'clock show.
I'll let you truncate, and then I'll do you one better. Not to be a one-upper, but I'll do you one better.
Okay. Well, and because I can't wait to hear your stories then too, because. Okay, folks, I understand getting a babysitter could be expensive. I get it, but it was a 6 o'clock show. I went to a theater that really is this crowded at a 6 o'clock evening, and it was sold out. It was sold out, and I was next to a family of it had to have been 12, and
they multiply like rabbits.
Well, let me tell you, but they brought the kids in there that were like 2, 3. It was freaking herding cats. I had a girl who was like Maggie and her sucker running around the theater, and then I had the wife go, "You go get him." "No, I did him last time." And I'm like going, "Are you kidding me right now?" And then they go, you go get your sister right now. And then the little kid's going up, and this little, I mean, you can't, if you can't control your kids, like, don't go. Or keep half of them home.
I went on a Tuesday.
You went on a Tuesday.
9:30 p.m. Sold out. Kids everywhere.
9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday.
I went
on a Tuesday.
No, I went on a Friday.
Well, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah, but I went on a Friday because that was when I was available.
Okay.
And I had, of course, it was jam-packed full of kids, as usual. And there was a family of 4 girls, and all they did was run around in the front, literally by the screen where everyone's watching. They're running around in the front, going from seat to seat. They are literally playing musical chairs. They would go on the first row, they would go on the 4th row, they'd go back to the first row, and I'm like, and I'm generally very actually patient in public audiences, but I wanted to throw my popcorn at them.
Did they play Duck Duck Goose?
No, they were doing everything.
Were your kids running around? I like this girl. She stood.
They were running around.
They weren't running around. I was lucky enough they weren't running around, but they were getting up out of their seats, getting popcorn, coming back in. By the way, fans, thank you for listening to us rant. If you have a horror story of your own, let us know. If you have kids that are the horror story, please do something about it.
Hey, at least you guys had problems at a kids movie. I saw Terminator Salvation with a 1-year-old in the audience.
Awesome. Oh, no. Yeah, that was my experience with The Watchmen. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, and I love the movie-going experience. I really do. But you got to be parents, folks. You got to be parents. Put them on. I put them on those little kitty leashes. Keep them on your lap. I understand it's hurting cats, but little Maggie with their sucker shouldn't be around yelling. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
And I still love the movie.
All that to say, thank you guys for watching us. Tune back in. We'll be doing Brothers Grimsby next week and
10 Cloverfield Lane.
10 Cloverfield Lane. And of course, coming up after that, we will have Batman v Superman, Civil War coming up real soon, X-Men Apocalypse, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 in the summertime, Suicide Squad. Those are off the top of my head what I can think of. Godzilla 2 in 2017.
For all you Disney fans, Finding Dory, obviously. Alice in Wonderland.
So much to go, and we're listening to the Gazelle song, as I like to call it. Thank you guys for joining us. Please rate, comment. Let us know what you guys are thinking. We like to get the discussion going, but it's always this movies are immersive and experience, especially a movie like this. Just everybody's talking about this movie, so please comment in whatever section you want, whether on iTunes, whether on YouTube, the website, whatever the case may be, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. We just want to talk about it with you. We had a blast talking about it with us. But let's continue it. Demetri, where can the people interact with you?
Hey, you can interact and support me on Twitter. I am at DMovies1701.
And Marisa.
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV, and also talking about Ginnifer Goodwin's character of Snow White / Mary Margaret on our sister network, AfterBuzz TV, Once Upon a Time.
That's right. And keep checking back in at Popcorn Talk. We've got so many exciting things all the time. There's so many movies, Marvel movie news. Speaking of Disney movie news, we have a whole show dedicated just to Disney movie news. Can you imagine? So a lot of great stuff and only more stuff down the pipeline. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time on Anatomy of a Movie.
Producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff. We would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.